Welcome to the Inside Killeen podcast from KDH News. My name is Jacob Brooks, co-host of Inside Killeen, a podcast about news, events, and politics in the Killeen-Fort Hood area. Today is Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025, and with me today are my Inside Killeen co-hosts, Kevin Limiti. Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
And our guest today is KDH News Copperas Cove editor, Erik Walsh. He covers Copperas Cove News. Hey, Erik.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me.
And for nearly 2 months now, there's been a brewing scandal within the Copperas Cove Fire Department. And just yesterday, September 2nd, Copperas Cove leadership held their first news conference about the issue. Erik, you were there at that press conference. Tell us what happened and what you saw.
Well, first thing I noticed was just the sheer amount of media that was there. And it exceeded not just my expectations, but the expectations of the public relations director.
Kevin Keller.
Kevin Keller. He said it more than he expected. And so,
how many media were there?
Well, I didn't get a count, but it lined up the entire back row of their meeting room there. So probably 6 to 8.
And these were like TV stations?
Cameras,
like
yes.
KWTX, I'm sure, KCEN. Anything like bigger than that, like
I didn't know for
Austin
sure.
or anywhere?
I'm not sure. Okay. But there at the press conference, Keller introduced the city manager, Ryan Havilar. Mm-hmm. And Ryan basically went over all the details. He answered many questions that that residents and people like myself, who I've wrote many stories about this over the last month and a half, mm-hmm. and he answered many questions that we had. As he was reading off the questions, I was thinking to myself, half of these are questions I've asked. I think my questions that I sent in and wrote about, I think they had an impact on their communication and maybe even the press conference. It's hard to say for sure. But it was a little informative. There was some new things that came out, and there was other things that they revealed that everybody already knew from speculation that was just a consensus.
Yeah, they had previously said 3 firefighters were fired, and 1 had resigned. They had said that a while back. But I think the big thing was he said one of the firefighters had been indicted. The former firefighter had been indicted yesterday.
Right, and that was the big piece of new information.
Right.
Yeah.
Did that surprise you when he said the firefighter hadn't been indicted?
No, not really, because there's plenty of time that had passed since when this happened, and we were all waiting for something to happen.
Yeah. And
I figured that for them to call a press conference, there had to be a new development.
Right.
That was my thought. Something had to get far enough along the chain that they could talk about it.
They could announce something.
Yeah, and so that was it. That's what happened. Something went far enough in the process of the due process that they could say something.
Now, were there like residents there, like Copperas Cove?
Yes.
Residents.
Yes, there was. I wouldn't say it was attended by a lot of residents, but there were some there. One was there that the man that I've mentioned in some of my stories, Charles Streeter. He was very vocal in city council meetings, criticizing the city.
And he showed up at a Copperas Cove City Council meeting a few weeks back.
Yeah.
And kind of just lambasted the council for being hush-hush on this? Was that his main thing?
Yeah, so he spoke during public comments, and he kind of threw out some accusations. And the things that he said were that he said that the city was quote, putting people in danger by not sharing information about the massive amounts of drugs at the station. And even Havilar referred to this word, massive amounts of drugs. He says, Havilar said, there were not massive amounts of drugs. And he said that at the press conference. And in the indictment, what did it say for the indictment? How much is there?
So, yeah, that just came in today. So, from Emily, she's our court reporter at KDH News. She covers the courts for us, so she attends a lot of trials and things like that. And so after your story broke last night about the indictment, I texted Emily. I said, see if you can get any court paperwork on this, 'cause she's very good at getting court documents. And so she got it. She went to the Coryell County District Attorney's Office. That's Dusty Boyd. He's been the DA in Coryell County for a long time. And and it names the firefighter who was fired and charged with drug possession. His name's David Martin Corley. I think he's 24 years old. But this document that Emily got, it's a true bill of indictments. I'll just read it. It's not that long. The grand jurors of Coryell County, state of Texas, duly organized at the July term 2025 of the 52nd Judicial District of said county, upon their oaths, do present that David Martin Corley, hereinafter called defendant, on or about the 5th day of July 2025 in said county and state, did then and there intentionally and knowingly possess a controlled substance, namely methamphetamine, in an amount of more than 1 gram but less than 4 grams. And it's signed by the foreman of the grand jury. I think the grand jury in Coryell County, they meet for a certain period of time before a new grand jury is established. And in Bell County, they do indictments every week, but in Coryell County, they just release it once a month, so it comes out at the end of the month. So this was the end of August that he was indicted. So, but it says here methamphetamine, meth, is a very I would say dangerous, addictive,
that's what Charles said.
Drug.
That's what Charles told me. He said, I thought that maybe it was drugs that the ambulance uses on patients or something.
Yeah.
He was like, no.
Right.
And I talked to him on the phone.
Yeah.
He says, no way. That's too easily traced. They would get busted for that. He said he had meth.
Right.
And
which is an illicit drug. You can't just find that in a cabinet of an ambulance.
Right. Right.
So
I want to know how much. I don't know my drug portions. How much is more than 1 gram?
Well, it was more than 1 gram, but less than 4 grams, because I know they, the more you have, the
charge.
Yeah, the charges increase. But Emily said this is enough for a third degree felony, which he does. Just on the charge alone, he faces jail time. And it's Emily put it in her story, which we just posted. It's on kdhnews.com. He had a $10,000 bond. Not quite sure if he bonded out, because Emily checked. He's not in Coryell County Jail.
Right.
She checked on that, and they did not have his mugshot. So we're not sure exactly where he was booked. If he went to another jail, he may have turned himself in. He may have just turned himself into Cove Police Department, and then they let him bond out from there. Perhaps we're not totally sure. But
So does that count as massive amounts of drugs?
I wouldn't say massive. I don't know. You know anything about meth, Kevin?
Nope.
Long audience here.
Yeah, it's meth goes back a ways. We hear about meth with meth labs. People making meth. Certainly, the TV show Breaking Bad. That's how I know meth. Is from watching Breaking Bad. So it's like it's man-made. They have to add certain chemicals, and it's made through some kind of chemical process.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, the guy was a chemist.
Right.
I know meth is very addictive, so I wonder if the people who have been found out to have been doing it are going to see any kind of like drug rehabilitation or anything similar to that. It seemed like that would be along with obviously what they got to do what they got to do in terms of punishment, but I think that also coupling with some form of drug rehab might not be such a bad idea.
They've already fired the guy, so he's no longer with the city.
Yeah. So why? But questions I have is why was why was he arraigned and had like legal problems? The other people, what was their involvement? If they just were fired, what was actually happening?
Yeah, did
they know about it and turn a blind eye?
Yeah.
What was going on there?
Yeah, those are
Was
good
he
questions.
ever accused of possession or
Yeah,
selling it?
that's what the charge is: possession of a controlled substance, meth, and he had more than one, but less than 4 grams. So,
But there was no alleged like attempt to distribute or anything like that.
That wasn't in the indictment.
did Haverlaw, the city manager, say anything about that?
He said that there is still a criminal investigation ongoing, and he said he said that he has said all he can. So who knows how long the criminal investigation will be ongoing for?
So it's also brought up a lot of from the public, and rightfully so. If this, and I don't know, but if a firefighter was high on meth while on duty, it's brought up a lot of public safety concerns.
Yes, and I had some concerns too that I asked the city about, and they to their credit they did bring this up. Now I don't know how satisfactory their answer is. I think they tried, but I still have some questions. So Haverlaw said during the press conference that the firefighter was not on ambulance duty that day. So it means he wasn't driving the ambulance or being a paramedic.
But was he driving the fire truck?
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what he was assigned to.
Yeah.
We don't know. That's it. Is that he had a job that day, and we don't know what that job was. Mm-hmm. Maybe the person that reported it saw him inebriated or whatever you want to call it, high right away, and he never had the chance to do anything.
Or maybe a little bit of meth dropped out of his pocket onto the floor next to the fire truck.
I don't think that's
what's
it. The report says, I can just go by the report. The report, and he provided a report. I've got it here. You may not have seen it yet, but it says that it had suspicious activity that looked like he was on drugs, and it was reported. One of the people working, one of the firefighters.
So somebody in the department got a sense something's not right here.
Yeah, you read him out basically.
Right. Yeah, and reported it, and that's what launched the whole thing.
And then a couple days later, it was on Haverlaw's desk, and he knew about it.
I wanted to now another thing is, and I think Haverlaw brought this up, but this city of Copperas Cove, the government is kind of criticized for not being transparent about all of this. Now Haverlaw kind of brought that up yesterday too.
Yeah, and he said that it's the same thing that really everyone says. It's their position is not unique. It's there is an investigation, and we cannot release more information until because we don't want it to interfere with due process.
Yeah.
And so this, they said everything that they could say, and then they revealed some new things, which was the indictment, and the other new information was about the captains that were let go, and that he was high on duty. That was the other new thing.
Did he say that the captains were fired?
I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the firefighter, this guy charged with meth, and then 2 captains, which would be kind of a high rank in a fire department, right? The captain.
Yeah. So what it says here is that 2 captains were alleged to have engaged in misconduct and were put on leave. So it doesn't,
but it doesn't
actually
say what the misconduct was.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's vague.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they were put on leave.
Yeah. So it doesn't say that those 2 captains were fired. Obviously, at least 1 captain was fired. The other captain may have been one of the guys that resigned. I'm not sure about that right now. At least 1, though, was a captain.
Yeah.
Math tells us so.
I want to take us back to how we heard about this story. Now, we did not hear about it through the City of Copperas Cove Public Relations Office.
No.
They did not send a release.
No.
They did not give us a courtesy call and say, hey, we got something going on over here. We got it through an email.
That's right.
From, I'm going to read this email address. I don't know if it's a real name or not. I've tried to talk to this guy, but he didn't reply. But Leroy.Jenkins, 1969 at yahoo.com. He emailed the newsroom. Anybody can email us news tips, news@kdhnews.com. And the subject line was drug use in Copperas Cove Fire Department. This came in at 11:59 a.m. on July 15th, 2025. And he says, might want to contact the Copperas Cove Fire Department. They have 1 firefighter that has resigned over illegal drug use and 3 more under investigation, including 2 captains. Now, he named the captains. I won't do that here. And then he said they are suspended and under investigation as well by the Copperas Cove Police Department.
All true.
Yeah.
All true.
It all turned out to be true.
In what date was it?
This was July 15th.
July 15th. So the stuff allegedly, not allegedly, according to the affidavit, the 5th, July 5th is whenever he was found with drugs.
Yeah. And so this was 10 days later after things, I guess, started happening.
Yeah, so Leroy Jenkins, which obviously this guy is a meme lord. He's referring to a World of Warcraft reference, like a 15-year-old World of Warcraft reference, Leroy Jenkins. And, of course, the date in his email, it's 69 in it. But he was right.
What does that matter?
Oh, 69, People,
1969.
Yeah, you know how people are.
Like Bill and Ted.
They just, people like to reference that number.
Right. So that got the ball rolling. We got that email, and then we started asking some questions to the city. I think I forwarded that to Chief Young. That's Chief Gary Young of the Copperas Cove Fire Chief, and he never responded. But then we started getting a response from Kevin Keller.
Yeah.
And they gave us a statement, and then you were able to get enough, at least for a short story initially.
Yes, that email, he just acknowledged that there was an investigation, that there were 3 firefighters that were fired. They sent out the email at the conclusion of their internal investigation. So the city of Copperas Cove and the police department investigated in conjunction with the fire department, investigated the firefighters in the fire department. They were very insistent that it was the firefighters being investigated, not the fire department. They were very insistent on that wording.
Right. And why do you think they did that?
Because they didn't want to implicate the fire department. They were trying to separate the fire department away from the behavior of
personnel.
Yeah. So, and if it was just one person that was doing it, and then, but we don't know why those other guys were fired.
Yeah.
Why were they fired? If they knew about it, is there a systemic problem? We don't know. We don't really know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of people in the fire department that know the fire department, they've come forward in this time, and they've been feeling like everybody's trashing them when they work day and night, serving the community. It's a hard job. And, they don't want to be thrown under the bus for what some other people have done. Yeah. There's been a lot of people also that's been like, stop trashing the fire department. We work really hard to serve and protect too.
And Kevin, you've delved into this, but like firefighters, they have a lot of mental health issues, right? It's like an issue, right? Like with police, and they see terrible things sometimes.
I think that any first responder doesn't have to just be firefighter or police officer, but anyone that responds to emergencies of any kind is going to have I wouldn't want to say that they're definitely going to have some, but they're likely to have some mental health issues.
Like PTSD type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can get PTSD from something as simple as witnessing a car accident or something. So, I mean, obviously they vary on on extremities, but I mean, yeah.
But these guys respond to car accidents, sometimes have to pry open the doors, the jaws of life, somebody's bleeding to death inside, they gotta pull them out.
I mean, Gary Young
horrific scenes.
told me in the interview I had with him just last week that he's been the first people see when they're born, and he's been the last person people see before they die. So he's seen some stuff.
Yeah.
So does everybody else that works in that field.
And bringing it to Colleen, Kevin, have you spoken with Chief Kabinski about doesn't he want to up the mental health services for the fire department here? Or
I did speak with Chief Kabinski. I kind of threw out the idea of discussing at length some of the mental health issues that firefighters have. And, in previous city council meetings, there's been some programs that give clean firefighters mental health resources.
yeah, like counseling. Right?
Yeah, like counseling, exactly. And I think that the Clean Police Department also has something similar. I don't know, maybe you could tell me, Eric, but I don't know if Copperas Cove has access to the same things. Do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I would be very surprised if they didn't. I think we're far enough in the game now that people are paying attention to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not fun, coming up to an accident, that somebody got seriously hurt, and they do it, as part of their job, so...
Eric, we had a big splash on Sunday's front page of the Clean Daily Herald. That was the August 31st issue of Clean Daily Herald.
Yes.
And you had two stories on the front page. Now, one was you interviewed the fire chief, Gary Young, because all of a sudden, during this investigation, he announced his retirement.
That's right.
And actually, he didn't announce it. I think his bosses did.
The city announced it, yeah. That came up in the press conference, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Gary Young, who's been with Copperas Cove Fire Department for 36 years, right. he basically grew up in Cove, joined the fire department, worked his way up through the ranks for many years, became the chief about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. I think he's 55 now.
That's what he told me.
55 years old. So, and then a few weeks ago, while this investigation is going on, the city announced Young is retiring.
Yeah.
And I guess the question is, did it have anything to do with the investigation?
Sure. Some of those things are answers we're not going to know, because it's stuff that's Gary. It's for Gary to know, and he's not for him to tell somebody else. Mm-hmm. I've asked him about it. I've asked the city about it, and the city, the city's response was not. Does it? So my question was, does he have anything to do with? Is it related to the investigation? Well, the city didn't directly answer it. But what they said was he wasn't implicated in a crime, or he wasn't investigated for a crime. That was their response. But they never actually said, well, did they prompt him to retire? Was he forced out?
Yeah.
They didn't
ordered to retire.
Right. Those questions they didn't answer. They just said he wasn't being investigated. So
right.
So
they've cleared him of any wrongdoing.
Correct.
But behind the scenes, he may have been edged out a little. He may pushed
have
along.
Been,
to early retirement. We're not for sure.
We don't know.
Yeah. But it's awfully coincidental.
It is very coincidental, and Ryan brought it up. He brought it up at the press conference, and his response was something like, he put in his retirement after the investigation was complete. it was for the day that he was going to have his 56th anniversary. You know, don't look behind this curtain. Everything's fine. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he's leaving, and he's leaving when now?
His last day is the day of his 56th anniversary. It's going to be next month, like after the 20th, sometime, maybe 22nd. I'm not certain. I don't want to say the date if it's wrong, but it's the 20-something of next month, I believe.
And the city manager said something about it. There'll be a new chief soon, right? Didn't he say that?
He didn't say there'll be a new chief soon. He said that they are underway searching.
Okay.
So they've already begun the process of trying to find a replacement.
And then the other story that you had on the front page in Sunday's paper, the headline was Cove residents still waiting for answers about firefighter investigation. And there's a quote here. I assure you, we will provide the info we can at the appropriate time, says city spokesman. Now, when you were working on this story, you weren't sure how much you were going to get, but tell me a little bit about, how you put that story together, and, were you surprised that you had more information than you thought you did?
That story was a culmination of a lot of time and a lot of questions and a lot of work. It kind of all came together at the same time. The background of it was people in Copperas Cove were just frustrated. Everyone is frustrated on social media. We had that man I mentioned earlier that came forward at City Council, Charles Streeter.
Yeah.
People were expressing distrust for the city and distrust for the fire department. They thought that the police shouldn't be investigating it if they're from Copperas Cove. Are they too close to the situation? They had all this frustration, and so I sent an email out to the city council members in Copperas Cove, to the mayor, and I CC'd the public relations director, and I got some responses back. Something from Rita Hogan. She's the place two council member in Copperas Cove, and she said that we were going to say something whenever we can. Please be patient. It's basically her thing was like, just please be patient with us. We need to wait till the investigation gets to a certain point, and then we'll have something to say.
Let me read what you wrote about her and her statement. So it says, Hogan acknowledged that the speculation has spiraled out of control, but affirmed that the city's lips will remain sealed until the investigation ends. This is a direct quote. You've hit the nail on the head. The rumor mill is definitely in overdrive right now. The internal investigation is complete, but we're still in the middle of a criminal investigation. As soon as that investigation wraps up, we'll release more information. We really appreciate your patience while we work through this. We don't want to do anything that could jeopardize the investigation. And then Kevin Keller kind of backed up her statement. So
they actually released something before the criminal investigation ended, because the criminal investigation is still ongoing.
Right. Yeah.
But
the internal one is the one that's wrapped up.
And it's been wrapped up for a while now. Mm-hmm. But what changed was we got the indictment.
Yeah. This was on the front page Sunday. Do you think this story, and along with the fire chief story also on the front page, do you think that led to them organizing the press conference 2 days later?
Well, to be honest with you, I think they were already organizing that before I wrote the story. I think when I sent out those questions, I know that they had a meeting. So Kevin Keller told me as much, that he was having a meeting with the mayor. And I think after I sent out those questions to the council, I don't know, and I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but I'd like to think that it got them thinking that maybe, we should have more information out. This would be in the public's interest to do something here. I think I'd like to think it made some kind of impact. I couldn't tell you what, but I would think so. I think it would, because I had some really good points about, just there's a lot of unrest and people needed some concrete answers.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really accusatory about it. I wasn't calling out anybody specifically, but I was saying that we need to know.
Yeah.
People need to know.
People are wondering, and there's doubt. There's concerns about the fire department, which should be this beacon of safety. They're there to protect our homes from fires and respond to serious accidents and all this. Well, there's this investigation involving, the rumors were drugs, and they turned out to be right. And so, and people are wondering, is there a breach of trust here? If I call the fire department, am I going to get a meth head that responds? People are upset. I get it.
Yeah.
It seems like the city, the press conference was an attempt to instill safety, that like, hey, we've got this, we're handling it, we're doing everything we can't release everything. Did they reinforce that the Cove Fire is doing a good job,
Yes.
and their
Yes.
safety's at the top of their
They did.
priority list and all
Yes, they, because when they were talking about the firefighter, they, repeatedly said, this was isolated. It's not the fire department. It was like specific members in the fire department. They were saying that, he was not on ambulance duty, and they investigated to see if he, was doing this on previous shifts, and they said he was not doing it in previous shifts, which I have more questions about how he come to that conclusion. Yeah. I'd like to know, is that, was he really not doing it before? Was this not a pattern, or was it, did he really only do this once? Yeah. It's hard to say, but, usually, if you're showing up to work, you might have done it before, but, they said that it wasn't.
Kevin, you know a lot about city governments and how they work. How do you think Cove as a city government has handled this situation? Could they have done better, worse?
Well, not to completely throw the city of Killeen under the bus here, but I feel like just the fact that Copperas Cove had a press conference and did address this is beyond what the city of Killeen has done in maybe not similar circumstances, but certainly circumstances where there were a lot of rumors flying around and they could have been cleared up.
I agree. I'm very glad they did it. I think it's what people needed, and they did address some new things. Obviously, we have more questions.
Yeah.
It's not over.
It also took 2 months. Yeah. It was July 5th, right? That's when they found out, and here we are, September.
Sure.
Sure. It took a while, and a lot of, like you said, like you've written about it, several times. It's not new per se. And were they just bending to the pressure? Oh, we have too much pressure. We need to do a press conference, and it's a lot of like lip service. I think city governments do a lot of lip service. They react to things like we gotta show something, but it's not. It's all reactive. It's not proactive. It's not like, okay, we have an issue. This is bad news. Unfortunately, let's go ahead and break the news ourselves, or
Right.
the press conference, or
Right.
a news release. But we have to find out from Leroy Jenkins what's going on.
Yeah. That's how it is, man.
Same thing with the cyber attack with the city.
Nobody.
That's really what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
I felt like the way that they handled that was completely illogical.
And we are referring to the cyber attack on the city of Killeen. Was that last year? Yeah.
Yep, it was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just in terms of comparing the city of Killeen's reaction to say that of Dallas when they had their ransomware attack. There's so many things like that could have been done differently and should have been done differently that would have like answered a lot of questions and maybe not satisfied everyone, but at least would have put things out there. It just was made up to be this big cover up that didn't really, that I'm sure people are still like maybe thinking about to this day, you know. And it's not just that case; it's other cases too. I don't see the city of Killeen holding any press conferences whatsoever, except when the firefighters from Killeen go to, you know, Los Angeles or
Yeah,
wherever
or
to
West
help
Texas, yeah.
to help with the
Yeah.
to help, which is, and don't get me wrong, that's great. I mean, I think that we should highlight those things as well, but they're positive stories for the community. I think that really like there's a lot of like things that come up that are negative that should be addressed that aren't, that just aren't.
Yeah.
I think that really what it comes down to is that these city governments don't think it's in their best interest to be forthcoming.
Yeah.
You know,
They want
unless-
to bury it. They want to put it under the rug, you know, brush it under the rug
Yeah.
and hope no one finds out about it. That seems to be like the playbook.
Yeah,
You know?
and somehow it needs to be in their best interest
Yeah.
to come forward.
Yeah, because when it breaks, when we find out about it from Leroy Jenkins, then it just raises a lot of transparency, questions.
It's silly and it's short sighted, but I don't know. Given how like, and I don't want to completely like make this about the city of Killeen, but given how like they have reacted to like public pressure versus like Copperas Cove and other cities, Harker Heights nearby, it just seems like the difference is pretty obvious.
Yeah, I've had a great relationship with Copperas Cove. My, year and a half or so I've been here. I don't always get the answer I'm looking for, but I'm always at least given an answer. I'm always at least the communication is never stopped.
Yeah.
It's always an open line, even if the answer is, I can't tell you that right now.
Yeah, and they'll tell you why.
Yeah.
They'll say the investigation or whatever.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Okay.
So I do have one more
Yeah.
talking point, and this has to do with the with if the firefighter maybe was doing this previously, and their investigation into him. So one of the first things you're asked was were people in the community there, and I named Charles Streeter. He was there. Well, there was another person there that I just met for the first time. Her name's Michelle McGuire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Michelle was a former city councilman in Copperas Cove. I just met her, so I didn't know that.
You met
until
her
I
at
talked
the
to her.
press conference?
Yeah, she was at the press conference, and she was a councilwoman in Cove for a couple years, and her husband was a firefighter, and things didn't end well for her husband at the fire department. He some of his trainings lapsed, and he had to be let go, and he was like close to some retirements, and it was not very pretty. But she doesn't hold a grudge. She says he said it was his fault for doing that. But anyway, she had a lot of knowledge about the inner workings of fire departments and how the fire department would investigate employees, because her husband was investigated about his certifications or certificates. So basically, she said that there should have been lots of reviews done, that there would be lots of reviews done for the firefighter on all the calls he made previously. And we can get information from those, depending, was he high, was he on drugs, and we can get some information from that. Now, Haverlaw said he didn't have the answers to those. He didn't know. But those kind of reviews are commonplace because, like she said, her husband was investigated.
Yeah. So there would be like some kind of performance report or job report, or in this case, this firefighter was real sluggish for some reason,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So there might be clues
Right.
that go back, who knows how long.
Several months would probably be enough.
Right.
Yeah, so there's still some information to be gained and to learn from. There's something there.
Yeah.
But Haverlaw wasn't able to say more about it. He didn't know. But she knew a lot about the fire department, much more than me. She had a lot of good questions for them, and she asked as many questions as any reporter.
So, Eric, what's next? What do you think will, with the firefighter has been indicted. We have the charge. We have his name and photo in a story that just went live on kdhnews.com. But what's next? He'll be going through a criminal process, but what do you think the next announcement from Cove will be?
Well, I think what Cove would like to do is be able to just have some breathing room, to be able to just let the criminal investigation play out.
Right.
I think what they would like to do is to just have some public trust and some until that investigation furthers on. Where and they've already said once the criminal investigation is released, they'll have more. So I'm kind of holding them to that and trusting that they'll do that.
And at some point they should name some finalists for the Copperas Cove fire chief position and hire whoever their top pick is. So there'll be a new fire chief in town in the next few months, I would think. Now, is that person you think they're gonna have are they gonna have to deal with this, you think, or that new chief with the public trust and all that?
Well, I think it would be one of their goals. I would hope it would be one of their goals was to do a little reforming.
Yeah.
Identify the places that need to perform better and to work better, and being the public trust, that might be one of them. Yeah. So I would sure hope that.
And Haverlaw said they do random drug testing at the fire department, and I guess citywide. But
that's what he said. Now Michelle, who of course her husband worked there for a long time, she said that in all his years there, he was never drug tested except for getting hired. She disputed that.
So
claim.
that's something we could look into, maybe.
Yeah, she said it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, anything else on how Copperas Cove can overcome this?
Well, I think that what they've done already is extremely helpful.
Talking about it, at least.
Yeah, I think that's going to probably help them in the long run to get out. I mean, they could have gotten out in front of it way earlier, but this is sometimes how these things go. And honestly, like Eric's done a great job of bringing it to light, and I think our best stories almost always come from tips. So,
Thanks, Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, thank you. Keep sending them. News@kdhnews.com. That's the email address to send news tips. Anybody can send it, and we'll take a look into it and see what we can get. Anything else, guys? I want to thank everybody for listening. Inside Colleen is brought to you by KDH News. It's produced by Hamida Botchway. You can read Eric's stories at kdhnews.com. Goodbye, everybody.